3, 2, 1. Michael Dooley, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate you hopping on this phone call.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
I am super interested, obviously, in your law firm, but if you don't mind, I I did a bit of digging, but can you kind of like, I don't know, in summary, I guess, can you guide me from the Zen Wine Bistro to
Yeah.
how this came about? Like where, like, I don't know, I guess how did this develop from where you were at then? And
Sure.
sorry, to be fair, there could have been a whole like time frame in between those two things. Those are just the two things that stood out to me.
Yeah. So once I dove into the wine bar with my buddy Caleb, Caleb Moore.
Right.
Yeah. Once two of us dove into that, I kind of got the itch for the small business owner entrepreneurship vibe, and started pushing forward on that. Learned real quick. Didn't love the food and beverage industry from like a day-to-day working concept, but I loved it on the back end, the business side of it. I loved the numbers. I loved the marketing. I loved the customer experience side. So once Zen was flowing, we had an opportunity to sell it, and it worked out really, really well based on where we were going. I had just gotten a gig up in New Mexico to do another startup, and Caleb, my business partner, was getting kind of his dream jobs lined up as a worship leader at the time, and so it really worked out well for us to flip it. Well, in the process of us flipping it kind of lit another fire under me, and while that was happening, I went and actually picked up another restaurant on my own, a little pizza joint, and so started doing that.
What year is this roughly?
2012, 13, 14. No, we sold in 15. So I'm working both these restaurants probably 2013, 2014. Landed my gig out in New Mexico, went to New Mexico early 2014, tried to run everything remote. And so I'd come back. Yeah, it wasn't awesome. And so, I mean, we're learning a lot as we go. And so, like, I'm going back and forth. Oh gosh, I mean, I'm coming in probably every 3 months from New Mexico. It's a 10-hour drive. And we're not rolling, so I'm driving. I don't get to jump on the private jets yet.
Yeah.
And so, glass of wine and slice of pizza doesn't cover the jet. And so once I kind of got to a spot to where we started selling these restaurants, I sold Zen, got to a point to where I sold the pizza place. And I'm still thriving out in New Mexico. And this is a biggest startup I've ever been a part of. And so I'm kind of running a variety of things up in New Mexico, from food and beverage side of things. It was a camping conference center. So food and beverage side of things for 3,000 plus people for meals. And so, I mean, I'm talking largest project I've ever done. That transitioned into marketing, growth, sales, which transitioned into contracts. Once the contracts got onto my desk, that was kind of what it turned into be almost all the time. I just was reading contracts. At the same time, I am getting phone calls from all my buddies and everybody back down in Dallas. They're like, "Hey, we know you owned a restaurant. Hey, we know you started this business. Tell us kind of how it happened. What are some pitfalls? What are some things we need to focus on?" Well, then the company that I was working for out in New Mexico had a few roadblocks, and I actually got to sit in on some pre-legal meetings, just some discussions on how did this happen, a couple of parties involved. At that time, I was like, you know what, I've been doing this for about I don't know, 5 years now, and it always seems to come back to the same thing. I need to know what the rules are. I need to know how to navigate these rules. And then I need to know if there's any ways for me to not break them, but bend them. Like, where are the loopholes?
Right.
I know there's loopholes. So, um, at the same time as all of this, I'm doing a ton of traveling for a nonprofit. I'm a contract gig travel guide for a Christian ministry that takes kids around on their senior trips and mission trips. And so I'm working with this nonprofit, um, and they're pelting me with questions too. They're like, "Hey, we know we know you've done this. Have you looked at this, type of disclaimer? What are your thoughts on this?" And so I was like, "I'm done. I'm gonna find a law school that I can work full time, start going to law school." Just because I want to take this a step further. Had no ambitions of doing the law thing, no ambitions to become an attorney. I went to Dallas Baptist and got a communications degree, and didn't know what to do with that. So I had no
Yeah.
clue that I'm going to become an attorney in the small business realm. So I started going to law school part time. Up in
If I can, sorry, if
Interrupt.
I can, like, yeah, it seems like it seems kind of crazy because like law school is like no joke, and you're just
Yeah, no
like,
joke.
yeah, I guess I'll do this. Like, that seems wild.
Well, I didn't know anything about it. And so they were like, "You got to take this test before you go." And I'm like, "What test is that?" And they're like, "Well, they call it the LSAT." And I'm like, "Okay. You can say all you want. I still don't know what that is." And so they're like, "Well, here, take it. It's you sign up for it and go." So I'm like, okay. So I signed up for it and took the test. And I'm sitting there, waiting for all this stuff to happen. And I'm talking to people, and they're like, "Oh, so how many hours did you put in for this?" Like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, we studied
God.
for, a few months." I'm like, "A few months for what?" Like, I don't understand. Well, then I went and took the LSAT, and I was like, "Yeah, you should study for this. You should." But I didn't. And so, for whatever reason, law school decided to look at my LSAT scores and say, "Hey, you know what? You're a good fit. Come on in."
No
Um,
way.
and so got accepted to a couple of law schools, but there was only one that was going to allow me to work and go to school. And that was up in Minnesota. And so I said, "Five it, let's do it." And I went up, started doing that while I'm still working. I've got a full time gig up in McKinney. I'm flying out to this campus in Minnesota multiple times a year, doing all of this stuff. And then I was like, I probably need to go to school a little closer. And I transferred to Texas A&M. Texas A&M has a campus. Their law school's in Fort Worth. And so transferred to Texas A&M thinking that I was still going to be able to do everything normal. Learned real quick, law school is no joke.
Yeah,
When I
right.
went when I went to A&M, my world was rocked. First semester, I'm like, what are we doing here? And it was nuts.
Well, so
Always
what
interrupt
was
me
the
if you have
difference between?
questions. Throw it at me.
Yeah, yeah. So what was the difference between what you were doing in Minnesota versus what you were doing in A&M? Like, it seems like there's a drastic difference.
Well, the difference was because I was technically hybrid in Minnesota, I had weekly assignments and weekly calls with my professors. And when I would go up there, we're 80 hours, killing the seat time because the ABA requires X amount of hours in seat. And so you have a little bit more. I kind of felt like I had one-on-one time with my professor the whole time. And
Mm,
so it almost had that DBU vibe. And I love the DBU. I wasn't a super great fit at the time. Looking back on it, DBU was awesome. But when I was
yeah.
there, I was like, kind of hate this. But it was the same. I'm not trying to knock on DBU. Love DBU. But it was kind of the same vibe. At DBU, I had a lot of help. I had some of the most awesome professors going through my undergrad who did everything but hold your hand through it. They challenged you, but you had that guidance. When I was in Minnesota for law school, same concept. I was doing what you and I are doing right now with a law professor, working through my projects. Right.
Right.
Once I got to A&M, not happening. You had one grade every semester, and that was your final exam. You could talk to your professors, but you had to be, I guess, a good student, disciplined and diligent, and all of those things that I hadn't quite acquired yet. And so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not scheduling appointments and stuff, and I just disappeared. So once that first semester hit, I hadn't learned how to study. I didn't have a poli-sci or pre-law background. I had never clerked anywhere. I mean, people were using these terms when it comes to basic courtroom stuff, and I had no freaking clue what they're talking about. I'm like, guys,
What is
I
your
just did this.
mindset like? I just I feel like if I was in your shoes, I'd just be like, I am not doing the right thing. Like,
Well, I think because I have that entrepreneurship brain, it's
right.
like when Kayla and I first bought the wine bar, I had never had a glass of wine.
Mm.
Not a clue what wine was. I knew there was red and white, and I thought it tasted like Welch's grape juice. Um, Learned early on it is not grape juice. Um, but that's kind of the mindset. So I dove into wine. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be as close to a quality sommelier as possible. Same thing when I got here, and they're using all these terms, and they're digging through. I mean, you're talking about brilliant people. I mean, these people
Mm.
are very intelligent. These people know the system. These people have been training to be an attorney since they're like 5. And here I am. I think the oldest person in my class when I was at A&M was like 24, and
Oof.
I'm like 30. I think it was right around 30 or so when I was there. So there's automatically this like, I'm that guy now. And so I just was like, hey, I'm doing this. I don't have to know the words. I've got 10 years experience on most of these folks. And I'm going to learn it. And so I took it from just a real life application. I kind of stuck to my guns and was like, I came here because I know that the whole vision was there's ministries, nonprofits, and small business owners out there who need
Mm.
help. And I'm here to help them. So my goal was not to be top of my class so that I go get big law, job offers. And so I just dug in. Ask the right questions. It's big. It's a big part of laying your pride down. You are the oldest guy, and I was probably the slowest guy.
Mm.
Um, and and that slowly transitioned. And so once semester 1 at A&M was done, I felt like I found my stride and I was thriving. And actually ended up meeting a ton of good professors. Had a killer time. Really started grasping what the concept of this law school thing was. Ended up graduating early from my program. Worked on trying to get some papers published and things along that line. I mean, everything was just going in a way I never expected. Then COVID hit. On my last semester, everything was online. I ended up moving away from Fort Worth, and that whole that kind of like that push, that vibe, that culture I was in just immediately halted.
Mm.
And so we didn't really have that friction, that traction. That it kind of just slowed down. So my wife and I moved to Waco, and when I graduated, I was actually in New Orleans at the time. I just listened in on YouTube when they called my name, but I was like, whatever.
Did you graduate in
Yeah,
2020?
yeah, 2020.
Mm.
So then once that happened, once I graduated, I had a couple of offers from some smaller firms, and I just still didn't want to do it. Did not want to get into the law firm game. Was not in it for that.
What? Sorry, what do you mean the law firm game?
Like, uh, law firms are very political, very much so running the rat race. You, as an associate in your first 0 to 3 years, you are just think the intern, you're the coffee and bagel guy. And you're just doing everything in your power to get noticed and to get the right case. It's not uncommon to work 14, 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
You're I mean, it is just, you're grinding it out. And you're doing
Yeah.
it also for the most part. I mean, there's some great folks out there, but for the most part, the vibe that was sent my way was you're doing it so that a partner notices you and gives you the right opportunity to advance. And that's just never been my thing. I'm just not going to play that game. Not that I'm better than that. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And since I was working at the same time as going to school, I mean, I was in commercial real estate. I was working commercial real estate agent. I was, doing my business consulting. I ended up turning that into a business. And we started a coffee shop and a coffee roasting company while I was in law school. And so my wife and I had probably about 3 different businesses going on while I was finishing up my degree. And then once I graduated and passed the bar, which also was something you had to study for, I learned. And
Yeah.
once nobody told me that. Nobody told me going to law school required you to study. Once all of that happened, once I passed, we basically just transitioned what we were currently doing into a firm. And so I immediately started with clients. I immediately started with a healthy base of folks that now I could just assist on a deeper level because I had that degree.
I mean, so was this roughly the plan? I don't know about the whole way through, but like, was the idea like, okay, once we get through law school, then we can set up like our own business, and then I can start giving advice to small business owners, and then, I mean, was that like roughly the game plan?
No, the game plan was I'm going to get a ring from A&M, and I want that shiny ring. And then we'll see what happens.
No way, bro. This is crazy.
It was just one of those things where it was like, the way that I do things, and people, I would say there's a lot of folks out there that think I'm just crazy. But I genuinely believe that my God, my relationship with the Lord, He's going to direct me every step of the way. And I don't have to have everything lined up. And there's a lot of discernment and a lot of prayer that goes into decisions. And not going to lie, there's a lot of times where I know the next step, but I don't know what comes after that next step. And I'm okay with that. I'm confident in that. I'm not only at a peace with that, I'm excited about that. And so when law school opportunity hit, by the grace of God, I knew I was going to get in. That was the only way I could get in. I am not the academic that you would think goes to law school. And the only way I could do this was by the Lord making it happen. And then once that happened, I was like, man, God, this is an expensive process. This is not an easy process. Like, what are we doing? And no lie, I mean, every step of the way, there's a little bit more clarity and a little bit more revealed. And I think part of that helps it from being mundane, and part of that keeps me excited and passionate about what I'm doing. And so the only plan I had going into law school was stay true to the fact that I'm not going to just say no to things, but I'm also not just going to say yes to things. I'm going to be prayerful in my decisions, and I'm going to trust that God's going to keep things rolling. And it's going crazy. I mean, it's been awesome. Graduating law school, your immediate question is what now? And I'd say as soon as I graduated, I had a solid 2-3 months of people saying, hey, now that you have that piece of paper, can you help me with this? I was like, oh, sure. Okay. And it was just off to the races at that.
So you're saying, I guess by paper, you passed your bar, so everything was done. But like, was there a lot of certificates you have to do? So I guess why I'm asking that is because like with your law firm, for example, like we were talking about before, you do things like immigration, COVID, small business, like you really like have a lot of like fingers in a lot of pies. So like outside of getting your degree or passing the bar, was there like other certificates you had to do in order to like provide advice for these kind of like different things? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. So there's a misconception with attorneys that you get certified or you get licensed in a specific area. Now you can get board certified in any specific area, which kind of is a step further in your education. But once you have your doctorate, once you have that JD and you pass the bar, you are now licensed to do any type of law you want. Now,
Mm,
the issue at that point is, can you provide competent advice? Can you actually, just because it's like any other degree. As soon as you graduate, you pretty much know nothing. And so when I started, my background was in business. So I was actually very, very knowledgeable in business. I did go and get an extra certificate in business. And so I did a lot of extra studies in business while I was at A&M. And just because for the last 10 years, small business is where I've been at. Well, as a process of that, and I worked for a few firms along the way that I got estate planning, training. I got some real estate because I was in commercial real estate for the last 3 years. I was able to learn a lot through that program and training and experience. So once I graduated, I sure was a brand new graduate, but I had 10 years business, 3 years real estate, nearly 3 years estate planning under my belt right at the beginning.
mm.
So then once that happened, I got a lot of people coming to me on the immigration thing. It just kind of happened because of family at first. I had some family members that needed help with visas. And the thing that you pretty much learn in law school is how to research, how to figure things out, and understand what the laws are. And so I just started digging into immigration, and then before you know it, it became primarily just the family-based petitions and visa side of things became a big thing.
I
It
wanted
just
to,
kind of fell into my lap.
yeah, I wanted to dig into that. Before I do that, though, if you don't mind me going back a little bit, as far as the company Duly Noted, which I don't even know if we've said that name yet. My bad.
Oh yeah,
Terrible
duly
plug,
noted.
dude.
I'm a bad salesman too. So
As far as the business, though, is it you and your sister that started it?
yeah, so duly noted. The name, courtesy of my wife, she named that for me, and I thought it was genius. And so my sister's actually been a paralegal for a few years up in Nashville, and so she actually was at a family law and immigration law attorney up there, firm up there. And so once duly noted started, I just pitched her um, the job offer and said, "Hey, like, you want to come and take a ride with me on this?" And she moved back down, and so we launched it. But duly noted, yeah, it's me and Catherine. Catherine's my paralegal, and then I've got a team of probably 3 or 4 other folks that help from a marketing aspect. We have a lot of legal writers. We've got bloggers, SEO writers, things like that, that
And
keep us afloat.
the law firm started in May 2021. Is that right? Or was it before then?
We transitioned over in, so I got licensed in April. We launched in May of 2021. Yeah.
So in less than a year, you've already got a team of what, 5, 6 people? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so that was one of the things I wanted to. It's a vague question, so I don't really know how to ask this, but like, I don't know. Can you like summarize the process of starting a new business? Like, and it just seems like you started it and then it, I guess, boom, maybe too exaggerated of a word here. But I mean, within less than a year, a law firm having 5, 6 people, like, seems like really fast paced.
It is fast. And I would never advise anybody to go that fast. And most of the folks that I talk to are in startup mode, and I always tell them, just take it slow. And so for us, it was a little different because we do have our hands in a lot, So I have a law firm, but we also are running a coffee shop. We have a roasting company. We have a marketing web design company. We are in real estate. And so what ended up happening was we started kind of taking these umbrellas and putting them all under the law firm, because I wanted to make this law firm something that was a little bit more of a one-stop shop for your small business startup. I
Right.
don't want this. I don't want the stiff, pay me $500 an hour to tell you I can't help you concept. Um, and so, because we had some pretty successful companies already under our belt, I could utilize those resources to springboard the law firm, and
Mm,
that is something that a lot of folks don't generally have starting out. So I didn't have to pay, $10,000-$15,000 to get my website and complete, social media presence started. I didn't have to pay uh, an attorney or a CPA to get my books in order and my entity formed and my structure formed. Um, and so all of that overhead then said, okay, the next step for me would be growth. So I can take it from a foundational standpoint, because the way that I usually have folks when I'm telling them is like, your first 3 years, you're building your foundation. Your next few
right.
years are going to be growth. Then your few years after that, you're scaling. And so you kind of have foundation, growth, scale, and that's where we're at. And so I immediately was able to jump into this growth aspect,
Right.
because the foundation was already laid. And once we hit growth, it was like, let me take that initial overhead that most people are using for office space, for website, for marketing, for equipment, for supplies. And I'm going to put that right into employees. I'm going to put that right into some contractors to help me, use their skill set to advance us to the next level. And so, within a year now, we've been able to do something at the firm that I mean, even just this, they tell you in law school, if you're starting your own firm, you're going to be in the hole the first 3 years. Um, and
What, as
and
far as debt?
yeah, I mean, because it just doesn't make sense any other way. I mean, one of the tasks you have to do if you're planning on being a solo practitioner is to kind of have your business plan and a budget analysis and a cash flow analysis and a break even analysis prepared before you graduate. And just standard, you're not making any money till year 3. And even then, I think it was like 14 grand a year is what you can expect. Um, and we just haven't had that. It's just been one of those things where we stick to our guns at the very beginning. I'm an advocate for having a business plan. Have your plan, have your exit strategy, and then stick to it, and don't get distracted along the way. And it does help. I mean, we got a lot going on. I have a team that trickles down in a lot of different areas, but Duly Noted is where I'm focusing now for the last year primarily, and it's been crazy. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. So I guess once you launched Dooley Noted, you'd, and I'm sorry if I can't keep track of these, but you'd mentioned you have a couple other businesses you're involved in.
Yeah,
Did those still
yeah,
stay active or?
yeah. So one thing that I get hammered for quite a bit is being a startup junkie. And it's one of those things where it's like, you just go and start this business. Why did you start this business? Oh, that's a cool idea. I thought it'd be fun. Um, and my thing is, and I'm starting to kind of find my niche. I'm starting to find I am not awesome at many things. Like, I am just not good at very much. Um, but what I am, that I think pretty good at, is I'm pretty good at recognizing when other people are good at something,
Yeah.
and not even good, they're great at something. And so, I mean, for as long as I can remember, the plan is, let me get started, let me do the grunt work, let me lay the foundation. Then once I lay the foundation and hit functional, I'm all of a sudden targeting out and recruiting people who can take functional to excellent. And once I can get functional to excellence, I can step away and move on to the next thing. And so it really is part of our whole model, is make it to where I can create something with my team. We create the foundation. Once the foundation is laid, we put the right person in the right spot on the bus. Once you have that right person in the right spot, you can step away, and it's like, other than a CEO level or 30,000 foot oversight of, hey, let's just do some accountability here, let's check in here, uh, it thrives. without me having to worry about the day to day. So we've gotten to a point to where those other companies that I was involved in to help get started are something that I can just periodically come into almost as in-house counsel or outside counsel and come in and say, okay, where are your numbers at? Okay, where are your liabilities at? Okay, how are your employees doing? And this is maybe once a quarter, just to kind of keep tabs on things, and then I can go back to my day to day.
So can you list out the companies that is again, or at least the startups that you did do up to this point? I guess that you're still
Yeah,
involved in.
so Evangelist Roasting Co. Evangelist Roasting Co. is a coffee roasting company that we started. And it's got a shop in Fort Worth, and we roast down in Waco. LegalZing is actually a marketing company that transitioned into a small business entrepreneurial consulting type of company. Started with just web design and SEO and digital media marketing, transitioned into entity formation, structure advice, tax business planning, things along those lines. Basically started a few years back when I wanted to take a big stab at LegalZoom, because I was so angry at LegalZoom. I was like, why are you guys just destroying small business owners of America? And I was like, I want to start something that is a thorn in LegalZoom's side, so that maybe they'll hear about me and either want to buy me or they want to just bury me. And so I started, I kind of pulled a team of people together and we started LegalZing, and our thing is, why Zoom when you can zing? And we basically do very similar things as LegalZoom. It's just you have personal associates that walk you through it. So when you go to LegalZoom and you're doing the shopping thing and you think, oh, I can do an LLC for $40, all of a sudden you're paying $1,000 at the end. And you don't have anything, you have your piece of paper and you don't really know what to do with it. And then you end up either getting in trouble or having to call an attorney who's going to charge you significantly more money to fix your problem. Right. Well, LegalZing is one of those things that you can do, saves you a little bit of money getting started, but you have a business advisor or a business consultant that walks you through the stages so that you're not getting set to a point to where you're going to be hung out to dry later. And so that was where LegalZing started, and LegalZing's doing its own thing. And we do some partnerships now between Dooley Noted and LegalZing, to where you can do like a subscription for prepaid legal services and things like that. And they'll send me clients. And then sometimes if a client comes to me and all they want is, some help with entity formation, it just doesn't make sense for me to do it, just because I have to charge a little bit more. So I'm like, hey, why don't you come over here and they can help you on more of a startup shoestring budget than I can. So we have a great relationship there. And then our newest venture that we just launched, and this is way out in left field, is called Holy Goat.
Dude, I was about to ask, Holy Goat Farm?
Yeah, Holy Goat Farms. And so this is a project my wife and I launched, and we were like, we're not country folks. We are not farmers. And we bought a house with, 3-ish acres or so. And so we're like, what are we gonna do with this land? It's like goats. You don't have to do nothing. They just come out and they mow for you. It's awesome. We kind of like
that random, bro? Like, were y'all like, hey, we got a lot of land, straight up, let's just get some goats up in here, dude?
Well, my wife made a joke about it. She was like, oh man, goats are funny because they're kind of trendy, like goats are on Instagram, goats are on TikTok. You got these cute little baby yoga goats or whatever. And so people are like, oh, they're cute. So I think my wife made a comment about it, like a side comment in passing. I'm not the guy you make side comments to. Like, you say, hey, a goat would be cool. I'm like, in my mind, for whatever reason, I hear, let's get goats. And so she was like, oh, goats are cute. I think it'd be fun to have a couple of them. I'm like, all right. So one of my buddies, I reached out to him. He's the guy you call if you need something. You're like, hey, do you know anybody? And he's like, yeah, I know a guy. And so And so I called him and I was like, hey man, you know anybody who's got goats? He's like, yeah, I know a goat guy. I was like, okay. And I mean, in a
This
matter
is
of a week,
unreal.
we had three little dwarf goats show up. And we're like, okay, cool. What do we do with them? And I don't know. So we put them out in the field and we're like, do y'all's goat thing.
Do you?
Well, then all of a sudden the guy calls back and is like, hey, I got 10 more. Think you guys want them? So I was like, I mean, what do I do with 10 goats? I don't know. Well, long story short, we got all the goats. And once you got the goats, they like to have more goats, which I didn't know that, didn't know that
This
was
is
really a
wild,
thing.
man.
And so one goat after another, they just started popping out. And we're like, yeah, I guess we're in it. And then I realized there's a market for baby goats. I realized there's a market for therapy goats. And we have the tiny little dwarf pygmy goats. And so we started going into the goat world. And
This is blowing my mind, dude.
Holy Goats Farms. We do fresh roasted coffee. We do baby therapy dwarf goats. We do chickens. We got chickens. We can get you some fresh eggs. And we're exploring a few more options in the Holy Goats Farms concept. That's gonna we haven't quite got there yet, but we're gonna roll out things called goat grams and goat rentals. And so we'll be getting there eventually to where I can send you a baby goat for 15 minutes and you get to play with it.
I mean, I'm down. I'm just
Once you see these, everybody's down. And here's the sales tactic. Here's the sales. The sales pitch is I let you borrow this goat for 15 minutes and you let your kids play with it for 15 minutes. Your kids are going to be begging you for the next like 3 months to buy one.
yeah.
And then once I get your kids hooked, you buy a goat from me.
So you're actually selling goats as well?
Yeah. So it's something that we've had to learn. We've had to grow into. It's not as easy as it was for me to acquire the goats. It's turned into a little bit more. You kind of have to be interviewed a little bit before we'll sell you a goat.
Right.
And
like
so we make sure
a pet adoption agency, like a third party.
Yeah. And so we make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. We make sure you have adequate land. We kind of have a goat kit that we put together for you. It sounds stupid, but it's a real thing. Just a how-to, like here's how you bottle feed a goat. Here's how you feed a goat. Here's how you put a diaper on a goat if you're going to put the goat inside your house. And we're talking little goats. It became a thing. So now we're breeding goats. We're bottle feeding goats. We just went out and.
So
I mean, last night. Great. No, go ahead.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Like, to be clear, I've always had a great respect for you. It's even more so at this point because I don't understand where you're getting the time, bro. Like,
oh yeah,
how do you get the time? I mean, that seems like a full-time job. You're talking about like a farmer. Like, how many goats y'all have now?
We keep a steady flow of about 20 to 25. Nothing crazy. I mean, you've got some goat farmers
that is crazy.
Okay. Newsflash, crazy. Yeah. So if we ever get above that, we try to do some population management at that point in time. Do a discount, do an offer, something along those lines. But that's kind of our limit. And then we've learned now that you can control the breeding process. And so it took us a little while to figure that out, but we can control when we get the baby goats. So,
but like, are y'all managing the farm? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I guess it's a dumb question. I'm just having a hard time getting my head around. Like, you have a law firm that started up less than a year ago. It's booming.
Yeah,
that in itself seems like a full-time job. Then on the side over here, you're freaking just milking in goats. Like, that seems like a full-time gig. So I just don't understand where you're getting the time to do all this. Like, you're Elon Musk at this point.
Yeah. Well, the time is one of those things where I do think I'm a little different than most when it comes to time management. I'm very, very good at managing my time.
Mm,
I don't do a lot of wasted time. I don't do what most people find normal. I'm not spending a lot of time. I'm not spending a lot of time doing that. I can't tell you normal TV stuff. I can't tell you normal pop culture stuff. Um, Football season has changed dramatically for me. I just, for me, my priorities are aligned a little differently now. And, um, don't get me wrong. I still pick my bracket every year for March Madness, and I'm still in fantasy football. And I mean, I can tell you all day long. I can give you a review right now on Outer Range. I just finished the whole season. It's only 8 episodes, but
I just
Josh
started
Brolin's my
that.
boy, and oh, it's weird. It is weird. But I was all in. And so, I still do those things, but my time is very, very important. And one thing that I have learned in the process of all of my wide variety of experiences is there's a way to maximize your time to get the most out of your day to where you're not running ragged. I mean, I still have time for morning coffee, and I still have time for my family, and I still have time, to take my dog for a walk, and
Wow.
travel, and do all of those things. But it's really about managing your time in such a way that you just don't waste it. And time is a very precious commodity, a very, very powerful tool. And I think that is the thing that I have, and I will continue to study, is how to maximize that time to be as efficient as possible in all of that I'm doing. So it is. I mean, you're right. There's a lot going on. I mean, we do manage the farm. I mean, last night, I'm running out to the goats with my shotgun because it sounds like a bunch of coyotes are attacking the goats. And it's midnight,
Bro.
and I'm doing that, but I got a 7 o'clock coffee with some folks just to hang out. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm gonna do it. I felt really stupid after last night, but it was a fun experience.
That's crazy. Oh man, I could probably ask a million questions about that, but I have a few lined up about the law firm. But
Yeah.
before I go back, to that, you mentioned baby goat therapy.
Mhm.
It's sorry. I guess I'm just curious. Is that therapy for babies? Like,
No. So it's a baby goat. It's a little goat that has been trained, if you will. I should say conditioned, um, to be affectionate, to a degree that most goats aren't. And so, from a therapy goat perspective, essentially, it's the concept of having a pet that is so attached to you, that it can be a point of therapy, or it's a therapeutic concept. And so what we do, just real life example, we hosted a one of our life group, community group with our church over at our house, and um, the conversation got a little emotional, got a little heavy, and it was a really, really tough time, kind of raw and emotional. And I mean, we brought these baby goats out while we were having this powwow, and these baby goats will literally just sit in your lap while you're holding them. You can be crying, you can be angry, you can do whatever you want, and this goat will literally sit right in your arms the entire time. And it's just one of those things that people need that comfort. People enjoy that camaraderie and that relationship, and they become so attached to you. It's a little different than a dog. It's a little different than any of the other animals, because they just cling to you. For me, it's extremely stressful because I'm like, get away from me. But other folks, it is a very therapeutic thing. And so what we do is we pretty much condition them to be very affectionate, and to be driven towards people, in a way that is healthy for both the human and the goat.
I mean, I get it. I don't know, dude. I feel like when you said this is training, I was like, I know what you mean. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen it around. It's just such a wild, like, hey, are you feeling like emotionally unstable? Here's a little baby goat. Like that's just that's the most random thing that seems to work, but like having goat, dude.
Well, so when I was in law school, A&M provided at finals time every semester they would do therapy sessions with puppies, where you basically just
Mm-hmm.
have a circle of puppies that you just go in and play in with an hour. And I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard of. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But it works for people, man. And so with this goat thing, I'm a pretty stoic person. I'm not over the top excited or emotional about a lot of things. But even me watching these goats, I mean, I can sit out, not say a word for 10 minutes and watch these goats do their little goat parkour all over the house. And I'm just like, these goats are awesome. You know, it's like, I mean, how do you not have a positive outlook on life and full of energy after you've just seen goats go hard in the paint on some gnarly parkour in your house? You know what I mean?
I remember it's random, but I remember somebody saying a joke about like, money can't buy you happiness. And he's like, I've never seen a person on a jet ski not be happy. Like,
Hey,
and it
that's what I'm
just,
saying.
I feel like it's the same thing with the goats. Like, you got baby goats around, dude. What are you mad about? Like,
You can't be mad. You can be mad. I mean, they are some of the most ridiculous creatures. You can't be mad about it. And then, my wife's grandmother has been spending a lot of time with us recently. She's 87 years old, and the one thing that she looks forward to the most is coming over, sitting on our back porch, picking up a baby goat. That's what she wants to do. Pick up a baby goat.
that's so crazy to me, bro. Oh, it's so
Yeah,
wild.
man.
Hey, thanks for telling me about that. I wanted to make a point of getting to that at some point.
Yeah.
Um, so speaking of time management, I don't want to waste too much of your time, and if you have to go, just let me know.
Yeah, we're
But
good.
I wanted to come back into what it is y'all do at Dooley Law Firm. So
Yeah.
clearly, I'm not a law expert, and so questions I want to ask, I probably just don't have enough information to ask. But
Sure.
from a personal standpoint, like I was telling you, we're moving to England, and so
Mhm.
I'm actually in the process of getting a visa sorted out, like a spouse visa for me to go over on.
Mhm.
One thing I wanted to ask you was it seemed to be a common post or something that you were pointing to was immigration fraud or scandals that people would get kind of like caught in when they're trying to do the visa process, which I mean, for me, it doesn't make sense because like we've done it all through like the government.uk. Like there really hasn't been any kind of like third party involvement. So I guess I was just curious if you can describe like what kind of frauds are happening with immigration.
Yeah, it's one of those things now, just because of where we are as a nation in the current influx of immigration policies and the changes of immigration policies. You see it a lot on the southern borders, where third party vendors are just taking advantage of the situation. I mean, if you want to strip it down and just kind of think, even what you've seen in movies about coyotes who mask themselves as legitimate businessmen or women to help you cross the border. They take your $5,000 and leave you in the desert. Transition that concept to modern day kind of Nigerian prince just emailed you for $7 billion concept. You will have it's anybody and their mother can create a website. You can put all of the right things on the website. You can put the secure function for your credit card on your website. It happens a lot with passports as well, where they pump money into digital marketing, PPC campaigns, something along the lines to get you in front of you. You click, tells you all the step-by-step process of how they're going to help you out. You pay the money, and you might not ever hear from them again. Worse than that, they might take your identity and give it to somebody else's identity, and then they're now getting to come across the border with your name, which then that I mean, from there on out, you're in a serious bind because you're
Right.
already in the States and you're stuck wherever you're at. So immigration fraud, it really comes down to people who just don't know. And that was one of the things that Dooley Noted that we really wanted to do was start publishing content that can just inform and empower the people, even just to ask the questions. Our content a lot of times doesn't solve your problem. It's going to either increase your knowledge to a point to where you're like, I need to ask the question, because that's kind of our goal. Most people don't know what they don't know, and you don't even know how to ask the question.
Right.
And most of the time I'm finding my clients, it's after the fact. Oh, well, I didn't know about it, so this is what I did. Now I need you to help me. So
Mhm.
one of the things that we're pretty passionate about is trying to front load that information, and not necessarily in a way that just gets us more clicks or more views, but in a way that's like, hey, if you are in the process of getting a visa, no matter what country you're doing it, make sure you're looking for these things as you're going through the process. If you are in doubt, reach out to an immigration attorney or your government specifically, who can assist with that, because it's not a process you have to have an attorney for.
Mm.
And so it's kind of one of those things, just making it aware. But the big thing is, almost like anything, people are capitalizing on the fact that there's a desperate desire to get your visas, and sometimes people will just click on the first link or the first Facebook ad that they see, and they don't do their due diligence. And so it's kind of just a matter of, here are the things that you need to look for. Here's what you need to be mindful of. And here are the potential risks involved. So now, with that being said, go to these different areas that are legit, or reach out to us and we'll point you in the right direction. That's legit.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, even with us going through it, like, I don't know, it's fairly straightforward, I guess, but like, it's almost like, um, I don't know, it's maybe a stretch of a illustration here, but it's almost like medical insurance, where like, so I worked in that industry for close to 7 years, and I got to be able to figure out like how claims work, and like
Mhm.
how medical billing works, and like how you can like, so like when Jonah was born, for example, they like tried to bill us $500 for like a hearing test,
Mhm.
and um because I was familiar with the industry, I knew I could just call and be like, hey, it's covered, we're good, we're not paying it, and they were like, oh yeah, you're good, don't worry about it. But like, most people don't know that. Like, most people don't know that if you get a bill, you don't have to pay for it. Or like with some of the hospital bills, like I would just call and be like, hey, you gave me a bill for 3,000 to take care of this. I can give you 1,500 right now. We'll call it even. And they're like, all right, cool. Like, just no one knows. Like,
Nobody
just no
knows.
one
Yeah.
knows.
Well, and that's a lot of what I do, and that's why it's like, how do you encapsulate what Duly Noted does from just like what's our slogan, what's our phrase, what's our mission statement, and it's really difficult because I want people to know what you're just talking about. That's a legit thing. I mean, we're not talking about scanning the system. We're talking about being empowered. We're talking about having that knowledge to know I don't have to just aimlessly pay this bill. One
Right.
of the things that I think in law school that really hit me, which I kind of knew this prior to it, but once I got into law school and out of law school, it hit me. Everything is negotiable, and not to a sense of taking advantage of situations, but you know, like the medical billing situation. Most of the time, their thought is insurance is covering this, so we're going to bill you as high as we possibly can.
Right.
And once it comes your way and you get that bill, or like even for us, I mean, I'm getting the same bill over and over and over again, but it's 25 cents off here, 50 cents off here. And I'm like, well, we didn't even go back. Like, where is this coming from? You jump on
Yeah.
the phone and they're like, oh, well, we just thought your insurance is going to keep paying it. Well, no. How about you stop sending me the bills? How about we clear the debt? Here's $500. We'll see you. Um,
Yeah.
and people just don't know that. And so that's what we end up. We spend a lot of our time just letting people know here's what you can do. Here's what you need to look out for. Tax season's a big thing for Duly Noted. I am not a tax attorney. I don't focus in taxes, but I am a small business attorney. And so with that, there are several things that I'm very confident in from the tax perspective. And it's not anything other than understand what's out there and available for you, and understand here is the law, and it isn't always against you. And here's what you can do to maximize your benefits, minimize your tax liability, and put you on a better foundation in the future. And it's just knowledge. It's just, let's just give
Right.
people the knowledge to make sure that they can be better at whatever they're doing.
Mm. One of the things I wanted to ask you about as well was, so if y'all started in May 2021, I guess in a rough sense, maybe apart from Delta, like that would have been closer towards the end of COVID.
Mhm.
But I saw that you had posted about EDIL.
Yeah.
Can you distinguish the difference between EDIL and the PPP loans that went out during COVID?
Sure. Yeah. So the PPP loans that came out were specifically for payroll protection, and it was to cover your payroll costs for a small business. And the emergency disaster income loan type stuff is not just relevant for COVID. So the SBA just released over the weekend that the funds for the COVID-19 part of the EDIL is done. They're not funding that anymore. But the biggest distinction between the two is PPP was eligible for no payback. So you can get basically, if you got 20 grand coming in to cover your payroll, and it all went, or at least 60% of it went to your payroll cost, you don't have to pay any of it back. The other side is a loan. It's a low interest loan, and it's usually paid out over 30 years. But that's the big one. One kind of turns into a grant. The other one is a loan. The PPP aspect was specifically for payroll costs, was a little bit lower. The other loan could be used for pretty much anything. There wasn't as many restrictions for it. And that EDIL loan is still applicable not for other disasters that come about. So it's a thing that's been around. People just didn't know about it till COVID hit. But every hurricane season, every natural disaster, the SBA offers those loans for folks who aren't covered under insurance or who don't get FEMA. And so, or FEMA assistance, or sometimes even both. I'm working with a client right now that we're navigating both of those due to Hurricane Ida a few years back.
So EDIL wasn't a COVID thing. They just incorporated COVID into it for people that are applying. Is that right?
Once all the powers that be decided to label COVID as a natural disaster or a state of disaster, and it became a big, like, this is officially a pandemic, this is officially a disaster. It then became part of the qualifications for the disaster loan.
The other question I want to ask you, I appreciate you clarifying that. I didn't know what EDIL was. Figured I'd ask. You're a genius, so you seem like a good person
Right.
to ask about it. So you've had your hand in the restaurant industry, obviously through the bistro, but then also on the legal side, I guess helping protect them, get them started. But I guess one question I wanted to ask you was, did you have any thoughts, or was there any insights that you would have maybe given restaurants during COVID that were just getting stretched to the thinnest as far as being able to operate? Like, I've recently come to the revelation or understanding that, like, restaurants, and granted it's gonna be different, but like they have a pretty low margin of profits, like 14% or something like that. So I don't know, like, did you have any thoughts on how restaurants should handle? I mean, I guess you're kind of looking back now, so it's maybe not as helpful, but like, I don't know. I guess I'm interested in your insight on how the restaurant industry should have survived COVID, or what things they could have done, or things that you saw that did work well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a large part of it was um, a, most restaurant owners who get into the restaurant industry don't have a safety net. They don't have a large bank of liquidity of any kind, liquid funds to help them through a situation like this. And so the small business owner who runs a mom and pop shop or in the restaurant industry, even if it's not, maybe they have 1, 2 locations. Um, it knocked them out, and it's looking back, people did everything that they possibly could at the time. It's like, okay,
Mm,
how do we function and make this happen? I think one of the things that we will all learn from this moving forward is you've got to be on your toes and you got to be creative about how you run your business. And I mean, looking back, trying to find the positives through the pandemic. I love the fact that something like that has now taken the business owner and the restaurant owner to another level of creativity. So, for example, with the coffee shop, we were running a coffee shop, we got shut down. We're still having to pay rent. So that's the thing that killed a lot
mm,
of restaurant owners who didn't own their property. They're leasing, and that's an advantageous thing to do in most situations for certain people based on certain books and things like that. So I'm not knocking renting at all, but you're sitting there going, "Hey, I have to pay rent, but I'm not getting anything coming in."
right.
What a lot of folks struggled to do was think outside the box, and they didn't have um, uh, kind of their sphere of influence, their circle of people around them when they started their business to begin with. So, like for us at the coffee shop, we immediately had our circle and our sphere, and we're like brainstorming, how do we do this? What do we do? And that's when we launched into the roasting company by necessity. Um, we were like, hey, we can go and roast, go completely online, and compensate our gross income through a remote thing, basically, of what we've got going on. And that worked for the coffee shop, and that's what kept us afloat during the few months that we had to shut down. um, and I think you see other businesses and other restaurants doing the same thing. The key, in my opinion, is that sphere of influence, is that circle of accountability where you think, okay, I can cook a really good burger, or I'm killer at pasta. I'm gonna start my restaurant. Every business owner, I don't care what industry you're in, but specifically in the restaurant industry, just because that's a lot of my background, you need to
Mm,
have your core group, your core team. And that doesn't mean that those people are with you in the trenches, but you need to have your core team so that when that natural disaster happens, and it might not be COVID, but it's going to be something. Every every business is going to go through storms, right? So have that team that can help you creatively think through the situation, which is where you saw more and more people start taking that Chick-fil-A approach of let's dominate the drive-through aspect. Then you started seeing more and more people create these meal kits and to take home, and they started kind of taking this approach. But the people that started those things were the people that had the team around them. And then the mom and pops just followed in suit. They're like, oh, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Torchy's is doing, a whole kit tacos to go with margaritas to go. We can do that too. Or, oh, Chick-fil-A is probably thriving, honestly. Like they probably just went up in sales because they just were able
yeah.
to dominate their drive-through. So let's figure that out. It all comes down to, in my opinion, is securing that quality team, so that you're not alone um, in the struggle. And in the restaurant industry, most of the time, you don't think about the fact that you need a handful of support going into it. You think, oh, I'm a great chef. Oh, I'm a great whatever, and you just do it.
Right.
And that's where we really suffer, is the fact that we try to do it alone. Um, and hopefully people have learned through the COVID process that it is something very, very important to make sure you have that advisory team, if you will, um, to get you through that. Because I,
So
I
like
mean, oh, go ahead.
so like
Yeah,
not yeah, so like nonprofits have to have like a board of directors, like
yeah.
in order for them to start. Is that essentially like what you're saying with any other type of business, is have some kind of like some type of board or some type of committee that is able to like just speak into the vision of the business, or like speak into like how the business is doing? Like, are you just saying like one of the big things for small businesses, or I guess whatever, is just to have a group of people that can help, I guess, facilitate, guide the where the business is going? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go as far as say you need board of directors or a committee, because I'm also on the side of committees and directors and things like that lead to meetings, and meetings lead to wasted time, and meetings are just kind of the worst. Mark Cuban has a great perspective on meetings. You need to go look at what Mark Cuban says about meetings. But it's just one of those things where I think if you were going to go into the business realm, if you're going to start a business, if you're going to operate a business, and you are not a corporation, the one thing you can take away from the corporate folks is that they have a team of people that they bounce ideas off of, that they communicate with. And for me, when I'm going around and telling people about how to start the business, I kind of list it out and I say, hey, you need an attorney, you need a realtor, you need an insurance agent, you need a CPA, and you need a marketing guru. That's your team. That's your team. Like, get that together. So it's kind of that same concept. You don't necessarily need them on payroll, and you don't need them to be a part of your entity. They don't need to be members or managers of your corporate structure. But have that team of support, even if it is hey, I'm going to pay you $100 for your time. Like, if you can still go to Starbucks through COVID, if you can still buy the fluff, you have the money to invest in your business to say, hey, listen, I will buy you a pizza if you just sit here and bounce these ideas off of me. And most of the time, your friends, your family, your loved ones, or a mentor, you should have somebody like that in your life when you're going on a business. For me, I have a core group of people that before I launch any business, any idea, I run it through them. I want to hear them tear it apart. I want them to tell me the good, the bad, the ugly. I'll buy them a 6-pack, or I'll buy them a pizza, or I'll send them a gift card, or $100, whatever it is, just to say thank you. Like, I'm saying you need a circle around you, a team around you that is in your corner, that has your best interest in mind, that you value and you trust. And I think that is going to be your success in your small business realm. That philosophy doesn't just stop at your business ownership. That philosophy, in my opinion, goes to individuals just living life, to parents, to husbands, to wives, to however you're doing it. But in the business world, it's no different. It's no different. If I didn't have people who thought different perspective, like had different perspectives and thought outside of the box in different ways than I do, I don't think we would have survived COVID to the same degree. I don't think Dooley Noted would be growing at the rate it's growing. It's not about one person being a genius. It's not about Elon Musk just being out there killing it. It's about the team that he has around him, supporting him and pushing him to these spots. And I think that is the one thing that you can see successfully as you look at anything. They've got a core team.
Is that something
the restaurant industry is no different?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're in action with small business owners, or to what extent, like, is that something that's not common, like, of people not having a core group that are helping them kind of like shape and shift the business?
No, and it's odd to me. It's odd to me that seems to be such a foreign concept. Most of the time, I mean, so these numbers are going to be skewed a little bit, but you've got over 90% of businesses in the world, or in the U.S., are small businesses, right? I think the number is actually a little higher than that. But then out of that, you have, what is it? 1 in 10, 1 in 12 succeed. Everything else is failing. Like, you have these people that are starting these businesses off of a whim, or they have, their trust fund kid, or they've got a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it, or they've got a good concept. What I see most in the restaurant industry specifically is you've got somebody who thinks they're a really good cook, and they probably are. Great, whatever. You can do it. You can fry some chicken tendies. Great, love it. Do your thing. But that does not mean you can run the next Chicken Express or the next Raising Cane's or the next Lanes. Like you can't just jump into this and say, man, I can make a mean chicken tender, and I don't need anybody else. And for me right now, that's what's happening. The way I get my folks, generally speaking, is I meet them out and about when we're at a restaurant. I do a lot of networking when I'm out at different restaurants. Once we're there, it's like, oh yeah, I just started a restaurant. Okay, how's that going? Oh man, I mean, I got dropped about 100K getting started. We're doing great, yada yada. Okay, cool. Where are your sales? What are your numbers at? Oh well, I'm in the hole. Okay, well, how long have you been operating? About 3 years. You're still in the hole 3 years. Like what's going on? And they're like, well, we're just trying to get there. Okay, well, who's helping you? Oh, it's just me. And you're like, okay,
That's mind blowing.
And it's more common, than you think. And it's not just in the restaurant industry. I have a lot of folks that are starting to reach out to me because they know that I don't nickel and dime for time, which I probably should be a little bit better at, because time is money. But I don't care about money as much as I care about seeing you successful. And so it's just a matter of my phone constantly is ringing, because it's like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I want to be that guy for people. But more than I want to be that guy for people, I want people to know, if you're starting a business, have that core team around you. And it doesn't have to be a bunch of brainiacs. You don't have to have the smartest people. You have to have the people that care about you and want you to succeed. And I think it is so uncommon that people see the importance of that, because they're all about, let's just do it. Let's just go. Elon didn't think about it before he put in his Twitter bid. Oh, yes, he did. Like, come on. Like, he didn't just say, hey, you know what? I know I don't have 44 billion, but let's just offer it. Let's just do it. You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't happen, They see social network and think, oh, Mark Zuckerberg just made Facebook by himself. No. Like, he had a great idea. He had a great concept. And then he turned it into what he could turn it into through his team.
So this is kind of interesting. Like, a term that I recently heard, and I thought it was hilarious, but I was like, oh, I guess it's actually kind of serious, is like hustle porn. So in the same way that, like, through Instagram or Facebook, like, you're seeing the best part of people's like lives, like they're on vacation or whatever. Like, seems like there's a similar thing with like small business or like entrepreneurship, where you're seeing like the glory side of it, and people are like, yeah, dude, I can make a killer sandwich. This TikTok video just inspired me. Just go out, let's drop some money. Like, well, I say that, it's just crazy to me, because like, I've always been a person that's like, I don't know a lot. Like, I don't know anything. Like, that's why I'm doing this podcast, dude. I'm just trying to learn from people that do know a lot of stuff. But like, to me, it's so second nature to be like, okay, if I did want to do something, I'm probably going to run into this. So I'm just starting asking questions. Like, I don't know. It just seems crazy. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bash anybody. Like, maybe you can do this on your own. It just seems so like, yeah, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to need some help, or I'm going to need to at least ask some questions. Like, so it's surprising to hear that, like, there's a lot of small businesses where people are just going solo, and oh man, I don't know. That seems wild.
I think it's a combination of pride sometimes. I think most of the time it's just the fact that people think that's what you have to do, or that's what is expected of you. Because they see Instagram, they see TikTok, they see the social, and it's like one person, maybe two people, and it's just killing it. But they don't see the team of 3-4 people behind the camera that are actually getting the lighting the way it needs to go. They're the ones posting the content, they don't see that. And that's where it's just like, come on, like, I want you to succeed. And the first thing that I can tell you is get your core team, get your people together. They don't have to be paid. They don't have to be on your board. I don't advocate for more meetings. I advocate for a whiteboard, creativity, and a team of people that will completely support your vision. That's what I advocate for.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I would say one of my strengths is I tend to look at things from like a peopling. Is that even a word, peopling, dude? What the freak?
What'd you say?
I said
peopling.
a peoply perspective. That's what came out of my mouth, dude.
It's all right. We'll go with it. The peoply perspective.
Like I tend to look at things like from a very like empathetic or sympathetic like point of view,
Sure.
and it makes me sad about like how that's happening for people in new businesses, because like if you have somebody that's comparing themselves to what they're seeing on Facebook and Instagram, whatever, like to other people, like
Right.
it's detrimental, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty blatantly detrimental, especially for like teenage girls or something like that. Like it's just not good for you to compare yourselves nonstop. But what makes me sad about small businesses is like these people are seeing this content, and like you're right, exactly. Like they're not seeing the hours that went into putting this together, or maybe even that this person didn't do this, like somebody else did, and they're just taking, like, you know what I mean? Like it's so deceptively like could be not true. And these people that are starting small businesses are like, oh, I can do this. Like this is like their thing. Like, and to see them like pour thousands, I don't know, maybe millions if you're crazy, but like to pour something into their dream, what they want to do, and it falls because they thought it was a different way, or they thought it worked a different way. Like
Right.
that sucks. Like, you know, if you're comparing yourself to somebody, you can recover. Like you can stop doing it, or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it's something you can get over. But man, like if you're seeing what's being portrayed about these small business owners, like just being like wildly successful off of like handing out sticky pads, like, you know what I mean? Like this
Right.
like revolutionary, like, oh dude, everyone just said sticky pads don't work. I started handing them out. I'm making $500,000 a month now. Like I feel bad for the people that see that and are like, okay, I can do this. Like,
Right.
and it's like,
Yep.
damn, like that sucks, because you're probably gonna like, if it doesn't go well, either that dream's not happening or it's gonna take a lot to
Correct.
get it back on the, you know what I mean?
Which is what kills me. Like I want everybody to pursue their dreams, because from a nation, from where we stand, from a people group, the society, we're gonna thrive when people are doing what they're passionate about doing.
Yeah.
What kills us is when everybody gets in the mundane. I just got to have a paycheck, just got to do what I got to do, and it's like where's the life, where's the drive, where's the passion? I
Mm-hmm.
want people to do what they want to do, and I want them to love what they do. And I don't want to be one of those guys that's always just shooting down your dreams. But man, like even more so than the money, which the money can be a big thing, people are spending ridiculous amounts of time on their venture, on their journey. And that time is something that they're never going to get back. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I see people jump on these trains of being these entrepreneurs and gig work and side hustles, and I mean, through COVID, like that just blew up. Okay, everybody's got a side hustle now. And I all support it. I mean, I've been doing a side hustle since I was like 9 years old. My first business was the Dooley Doughboys. Me and my brother baked bread and sold it. Like I understand the side hustle game.
So crazy.
But don't lose that because you got thrown off by, the TikTok guy that said, "Oh, I made, 500 grand playing bingo today." Like that's not accurate. You know what I'm talking about? You sat there, you see those ads, you're like, bro, he's making bank playing some bingo. Like, what am I doing? Like that's not real. And I love what I do because every day when I wake up, my goal is to sit here and try to inspire people to pursue their passions, but don't do it just aimlessly. Like, let's put some structure together. Let's figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
I am not your meetings guy. I am not great at putting an agenda together, and I'm not great at sticking to that agenda. But I am pretty solid at sitting here saying, hey, like, if you want this to succeed, show me that you want it to succeed by let's creating a fail proof, a safety net, if you will, to where your team can keep you from falling in the ditch.
I wonder if there's some kind of sentiment. I don't know how like it would have developed, or like how people would have bought into it, but like I guess it's somewhat similar to like the one. Like if you grew up hearing like there's the one out there for you, like which
We're talking about Neo, or are we talking about like
we could.
where are we at? I mean, I'm sorry, where are we at?
Like if you're talking about like in regards to like a soulmate, like it was probably somebody heard along the way, like, oh, there's the one. Like, and I guess I'm just gonna take a bold stand to say like it's not true. Like that's a bunch of rubberish. Like
right.
you could, You can't marry anybody,
Rubberish.
but like,
We're not in England yet, man. Come on.
dude, I'm just trying to get it
Rubberish.
gassed up.
But you're right. I mean, it is. I'm with
So,
you on that.
so people who are like, oh, there's the one up for it. It's not true. Like, you're compatible with a bunch of people. Anyways, so there's that. But then, like, I wonder if, in a similar sense, people are hearing like, if you have a passion, just pursue it, and it'll all work out. Like, this is kind of like, yeah, kind of like, if you don't take a risk, it's not gonna like come to fruition. But like, at the same time, it's like you just can't you can't just be chasing something without like a vision or a plan or a structure. Like, and it seems like, I don't know, particularly like with millennials and stuff, it's just like, since they're so passion based, like, and they're so like purpose driven in what they want to do, and like where they invest their time, there seems to be like an idea of like, hey, if you have an idea, if you think you can do this, just do it. Like, and it's just like, cool, but like, it's probably not gonna work. Like,
and that, I mean, I want you to be passionate. I want you to pursue your passions. But then when you come and talk to me about your passions, you're going to walk away from my first consult thinking that I just freaking just ripped your
thwart
heart
it,
out.
dude.
I mean, that I'm not trying to be that guy. But when I first hear it, that what you're saying is exactly what I want people to see. And it's kind of like when you're a kid, your parents, you're getting on you for something, and they're like, oh, well, you'll understand one day, or you need to learn from my mistakes. I've already touched the hot plate. No, it's going to burn me. That kind of thing. It is a little similar in like people explore your passions, go for it. I'm not going to stop you from that, but I am going to say it's not as dreamy as you think. Instagram is not real. It is a sales tactic. It is a marketing tactic. That's what it is. Even the individuals, they're showing the best part of their lives. They're not showing you everything that led up to that. And a lot of times, the best part of their lives isn't even real. It's a facade, anyways. And so, with this, the millennial mindset of, I am passionate, and I just, I really want every, cricket out there to have its own, mound of dirt to play in. I'm going to start the Cricket Foundation. Like, that's cool. And I want you to pursue your drive for crickets, but the reality of it is, if you're going to be done in about 3 months, and I don't want your dream for cricket conservation to die in 3 months. So let's.
You just killed somebody's dream, dude. Somebody was like, "Hey, I heard about this podcast. I heard he like really has a nice, encouraging people on." Wait, what? What's he saying about crickets? What?
If you want to protect the crickets, I think it's possible. But I think there's a better industry for deep frying and covering in chocolate. Just saying.
Oh man, dude, Rosie's family, they came from England, and I think they tried a chocolate covered grasshopper, dude.
Oh yeah.
Bro, they couldn't handle it. They weren't ready for it.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan personally, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, explore your passions, dive in deep. I'm all for it, but make sure you have that team around you. I mean, I just can't stretch it enough. Have that team around you. And like for me, I mean, I have been doing what I'm doing. Yes, my law firm has only been around for just at a year now, but I've been in this business realm since I graduated DBU in 2008. As soon as I left my undergrad, I jumped into this business stuff, and it was not fun, pretty. It is not the sexy, glamorous concept that you see. It is long hours, no pay. I mean, I went through a time where I knew every lunch special on from Cooper Street down to like Carrier Parkway. I knew where I could eat for under $5 because I was making no money. You know what I mean? And I have a college degree, and it's not as glamorous as people think. But as you get to the point now, I mean, I'm 34 years old. The law firm is doing really, really well. I have no boss. I can, if I want to take my entire morning and give to you for a podcast, I can, because I think that's important, because that's what I want to do. And I know at the end of the day, I still can make sure my pregnant wife can have 7 pounds of, whatever she's eating today because she's starving. And that's awesome. Like, I'm gonna feed her as many burgers and pickles and ice cream as she wants. I'm happy about it. And that's what I'm gonna post on Instagram. But you're not gonna see the
Right.
fact that tonight I'm gonna stay up till 2 a.m. crushing out these files that I got to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Mm,
not gonna post that. So
yeah, man, that's really interesting. I've never really thought of like how social media disfigures like what it is to be
oh
like a
yeah,
small business owner. Like it
yeah,
seemed like it just got a lot of hype. Like, and I think in politics it gets a lot of hype as well. Like people like jobs, 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 like, and just talk about
right.
like the importance of small business. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not my field, but now that you've been speaking, I'm just like, oh, I could see where like that would be really confusing to somebody if they just saw like all these kind of hustle porn dudes like and girls like making these like crazy amount of income off the minimal amount, because that's what it is, right? Like it's like, hey, you can make X amount of money by doing zero, like minimum
Right,
amount of work. Like that's the dream,
right.
right? Like, and it's
Right.
just like, I mean, maybe somebody, some dude got lucky a long time ago investing in Bitcoin. So yeah, he made it, but like
And that's the
that's
thing.
not what
Yeah.
it is now. Like,
Right.
hmm,
Right. Yeah. I mean, before we went into the firm and launched that, I was off social media for a good 6 to 8 months total. I mean, I had to strip it away because it influences you. It changes the dynamic, and I did not want to be influenced in that way launching
yeah,
my new business.
that's wild. Man, that's about it I had on my plate. I've already taken like an hour 30 of your time, which again, super appreciate.
Yeah, man.
You're amazing, dude. Like you've always been solid, but I feel like in this past hour 30, I'm like, holy smokes, this guy, dude, is Neo. Like,
Right.
that's
Well,
nuts, bro. It's so crazy what you're doing. Like, that's insane.
again,
Um,
it's a team effort. I've got a solid team around me, and that's not that cheesy plug where it's like, oh, it's not me. It's I'm trying to practice what I preach. Like,
yeah,
I think you can do credible things in the world, and I see people do it every day. They're doing awesome stuff in the world, and even some of the folks that you've had on your podcast, like, they're doing killer things, and
yeah,
it is awesome to see what people can do. But even those guys, like, listening to their stories and listening to what people have, they've got a team around them helping them get where they want to go.
yeah.
And what I love about what I do is I don't have the pressure of being awesome at anything. Like I said earlier, like, I'm not good at really anything. It's just a
That's
matter
that's
of,
so much
can
BS, dude.
no, it's not like, I'm over here, trying to figure out, I don't, I mean, I'm not an awesome attorney. No, I mean, I'm not an awesome goat farmer. Like, my goats were getting attacked by my donkey last night. Like, clearly I'm not doing something right. Oh, we have a donkey. It's a mini donkey.
Oh man, dude, so
It's all
crazy.
about empowering, getting that team together, making sure you're honest and transparent where you're at, have a high level of integrity, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, we do some. I mean, I've made some pretty big blunders, and
Mm,
you just got to keep rolling. You got to keep going. You got to stay focused on that end game, and that for me is the one thing that I do get a lot of discouraged folks coming, and I just tell them, hey, like, you don't need to have every step planned out, but have that goal, have that end game, have whatever it is that you're driving for. Store it in a place that you won't get distracted from that. And when you wake up in the morning and you're seeking and you're kind of sitting here, what's my purpose? Why am I up? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Remember that goal, because you're going to have the ups and downs. You're going to have the negativity. You're going to have the failures. And you can't look at that short sighted version of your life. You've got to see that big picture. And
mm,
man, that's what keeps me going.
yeah. Hey man, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate the
Thank you for letting
time.
me. poorly plug all of my businesses. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If anybody wants to check out, it's dooleynoted.com. Is that right?
That is correct.
And
yeah, dooleynoted.com. Start there. That's a good one.
And then you have a Facebook page. I think you have a Twitter account as well. Is that right? Do you have any like Instagram
Twitter
page as well?
Instagram. Yep. Dooley Noted Law is our Instagram. Twitter, I'm just trying to get into the Twitter game, so that one doesn't have a ton of activity, but Instagram and Facebook, pretty active. So.
And then do you, I think I saw that you have people in different states, like clients in different states. Do you have some kind of like boundary, or do y'all primarily serve one area?
So Texas is where I'm licensed. In the next 3 years, I will be licensed in about 4 other states. But right now, I'm just in Texas. However, there are certain things like immigration and the SBA work and a couple other things that I do that allow me to cross borders. And so I do a lot of work in Louisiana. And Mexico. I've actually done quite a bit of work down in Mexico. And so depending on where you're at, I can cross borders. And then there's a level that does not go into legal advice. If I'm just doing more of the business aspect, I can do that wherever. So.
And I feel like I'd be doing everybody a disservice if I didn't tell them how they can get involved in the goat farm, or how they can utilize time of the goat. Like where do people go? Is there a site like?
Yeah, so holygoatsfarms.com is under construction. It will be available soon, but right now, find us on Instagram, and it's Holy Goats Farms, and that's S on both of those because Holy Goat Farm was already taken, but they're not
really.
So yeah, they're not competitors. Nah, ain't worried about them. But Holy Goats Farms on Instagram. Hit us up.
Perfect.
Check us out. We got the donkey and the labradoodles and the chickens and the goats.
God, man, that's so crazy. Yeah, man, really appreciate your time. Appreciate the conversation, the insight. But yeah, we'll go ahead and call it there. Appreciate everybody checking in. All right. Take care.